we are very excited to bring him on. So Andy Lee, are you ready for us?
Hello. Okay, so my story will be pretty serious. Just a heads up. Yeah.
We're all serious.
Yeah, but I will mention some scenes of gun and knife violence, and also misogyny and misogynistic violence. So, okay. What I will tell you was a dream. I arose from the floor at a school. The second I stood, I heard a booming clap. Then a series of them followed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I immediately knew. A shooting shocks one, and then it doesn't. I can't remember if I heard screams, but I know that I said to myself, "Oh God," in repetitions. I ran outside. The ground was sand. I and a number of others gathered, somehow, at an outdoor dining table. We were, I think, discussing our next move. A band of teenage boys ran out of the school carrying knives. I don't remember what they said, but they screamed at each other with looks of elation and anxiety. They ran toward us. We stayed. I don't know why. They attacked the woman sitting across from me. I don't wish to go further, for the details made me never want to think about this dream ever again. I wish it was one of those dreams I forget the moment I wake up. And yet, my mind returns to it, I think, because I need to confront the current moment when mass violence occurs and I am sickened by the surprise, but I am inured to it. How can I say that, of course, this has happened again? What can I actually do about it? The dream occurred days after the El Paso and Dayton shootings on August 3rd. In those days, I was reading a book called Jane by Maggie Nelson. It was a reflection on her Aunt Jane's murder, which was associated with a series of Michigan murder cases in which all the victims were women. I was also watching the 3rd season of Stranger Things, which seemed to me to be the bloodiest season so far, with a fight that ends in open wounds in almost every episode. Every day, I heard the simulated gunshots of a computer game that my middle school students played during free time. So of course, the dream did not come from nowhere. Like with the mass shootings that occur all too often, the terror, though seemingly random, stems from sources to which we can trace back. Every day, the boys I teach insult each other. During the game of Mafia, one said that whoever kills him is a woman. That same day, I came across an article that, in the wake of the El Paso and Dayton shootings, connects a common trait among mass killers, a hatred towards women. On occasion, the boys tease the girls. The boys yell at them when the girls do something that supposedly gets in their way. I shout back at the boys in the girls' defense, trying to teach them that aggression is not the way to express their frustration. Often they feel that a violent attitude provides the best relief. When I hear about a mass shooting, I ask whether I could be next. Whether I could be next at my workplace, where I would have to protect my students. The question comes regularly. If it were to happen right now in this building, would I be prepared? What would I do? Run, hide, fight, the drill said. Would I? Or would I freeze, like in the dream? This, even as I ask myself, how, every day, will I protect my students from each other? I wonder whether I can teach them how to treat one another when they mutter slurs under their breaths. I question whether I should permit them to play violent games when they play them under wraps. They're kids, they're having fun, they're learning. Am I a coward if I dread scolding them? When I stay silent, I wrestle between justifying it for my own sanity and regretting it. I feel a heavy burden of responsibility to teach them how to respect one another. If I don't, who will they become? Maybe they see a need to compensate for their own masculinity if they are Asian American boys who have been stereotyped as weak or emasculated. Maybe they have not been able to explore a masculinity that does not require one's own pain to be taken out on other people. When they lash out, do they learn what rebellion means? At the onset of adolescence, a time in life when it feels like everyone is against you, but you don't know why. All you know is that you feel confined, so you resort to the easiest way to break free. Is that rebellion? Or is that selfishness? We all hurt. What matters is how to acknowledge the pain we cause each other, the pain others feel. We must be honest and accountable, and we must not reinforce a primary principle of toxic masculinity, that ignoring pain demonstrates strength. That ignorance then balloons until it explodes into violence. I once asked the boys, "Why are you all so mean to each other?" They looked at me with guilty faces. They seemed not to know themselves. Then one said, "Because it's funny." The rest agreed. I wrinkled my brow. Is humor the highest end, higher than compassion? Maybe it is when life at school, at home, and in your body makes no sense. The news constantly reminds you of global crisis. Your mind internalizes this and makes it parallel to the conflict in your own sense of self. It's funny, it's frustrating, it's frightening. I wasn't sure whether the boy even meant what he said, though I hoped that one day I could ask them all what funny really means to them. And I hoped that they could trust me when I said that words carry weight. And it's up to us to consider when words hurt others, such that the pain they induce becomes normal. And we feed the culture which has bred men to justify their violence through selfishness, thinly veiled as pleasure, survival, pessimism, among other things. "Because it's funny," he said. I wrinkled my brow. I smirked at the strange answer. I can't say I was surprised.
MD, is this your first time telling?
Kind of, yeah.
Kind of. I was so hard on Andy on the stories. I kept on telling Andy, you got to revise the story. I feel terrible, but oh my goodness, you make me proud. Can we give Andy another applause? Thank you so much. Are coming to our final storyteller, Rebecca Ozaki, proud Japanese and Filipino American, born to a family full of artists and activists. Let's welcome Rebecca.
my first time. I'm new to storytelling, so thank you. I feel very seen right now, but a little bit braver, and glad to be here with all of you. The year that I was born was the year my father declared war on the U.S. government. Yeah. It was the year my dad stopped paying his taxes. His civil disobedience that was a long time coming and somehow tied to my own birth. Because I was born and raised in his resistance, his battle became a part of me too. There's a saying by an old white man that the only things certain in life are death and taxes. I know people don't like to talk about that. That's what I'm going to talk about tonight. I think about both of these things more than most people, and my family has been transformed by both death and taxes. These are the truths I've always been told to keep within the family. I'm now realizing that there's power in sharing this story. So our dad, my brother's here too. Dad had a thick Chicago accent. He was born on the South Side. Die-hard Sox fan. Always the loudest booing in the stands, and never was I more embarrassed, but I knew sometimes Dad liked to yell. My brothers and I were used to waking up in the middle of the night to music at 3 a.m. Mom playing Chopin on the piano, accompanied by Dad's voice reverberating through the house. Music, we knew, was their language, the way that they communicated best. Dad was a musician, a classical singer, and at times would use that identity as an explanation. We grew up hearing, he can't help it, he's an artist. One of my favorite memories of Dad was that time that Mom went to California for vacation and he let me adopt a cat while she was away. His name was Snip, he had a brown mustache. Mom loved that. She did not like animals at the time. As I got older, it really didn't matter what our conversation started with, because almost everything we talked about circled back to one of three things: music, cats, or Japanese-American incarceration. Yes. Our shared language was justice, and especially after my grandfather died, Dad was the one who I could talk to about what happened to our family. To some extent, it consumed him. So in World War II, some of you know this story, at ages 14 and 17, basically still children, my grandparents were forced into American concentration camps. Grandpa told me about the day he came home from school. He was in high school, and he heard pounding on his front door. He and his siblings watched in terror as their father was taken away by the FBI agents carrying guns. No idea where he was going or if they would ever see him again. Their land, their belongings were stolen from them. Their families, my family, forever separated. They lost loved ones along with their farms, storefronts, homes that today would have been worth millions. Grandma lost her father just days before the prisons closed, so I understood why she didn't talk about the war that much. Yes, they physically survived, were resilient in the face of blatant racism and hate, and even used their experience as a civil rights lesson for future generations, including many conversations with me and my brothers, and in schools. We overcame oppression, didn't we? But that was just a lie that we were told that we couldn't afford to deny. The lie that was used to pit us against other communities of color that I sat comfortably in for too long. After the war, for a while, to survive, we tried to assimilate and fade into whiteness until we couldn't be chameleons anymore. I now often think about what survival even means, because generations later, it feels like my family is barely surviving. We feel the effects of trauma inflicted upon our ancestors, and because of this, my father waged war. In the court case, Ozaki versus Commissioner, against the U.S. Tax Court, it states my dad claimed his mental illness was caused by failure of the U.S. government to acknowledge that the violation of constitutional and civil rights of Japanese Americans during World War II has debilitating and demoralizing effects on the child of US concentration camp survivors. In 2003, as expected, they ruled that since he was able to exercise ordinary care when non-tax matters, the claimed mental illness does not constitute reasonable cause. But even after Dad lost the case, he wouldn't fold. While his fight to him was rooted in justice, ironically, it was one that slowly eroded our family, a ghost we couldn't escape even after incarceration. Growing up, I couldn't understand it. We talked about the war, about camps, but we never talked about mental health. Grandpa and Grandma held meetings for reparations in their living room on Toohey Avenue, but as I knew it, it was a conversation about justice, equality, about our rights, never about long-term impact on health, never about mental health. That part of the conversation had to be sacrificed, and for too long, for many communities of color, it has been. Growing up, I understood that Dad's tax evasion and the mental illness in our family are topics that, if spoken about above a whisper, could only bring shame. We were told to keep it in the family, to preserve our family. To not pay taxes was to be un-American. We are not safe if we are seen. It wasn't until near the end of my dad's life that I tried to understand why he did what he did. Why hold on to a battle he couldn't win? As I get older, I realize that this was his personal crusade, the only way he could think of to fight the system that tore our family apart. Even my grandfather said that in organizing for reparations for World War II, Japanese Americans must ask for money, he said. He said, money is what the government understands. It is the American way. White supremacy is fueled by capitalism. So to take back what they took from us, this was my father's reparations, his civil disobedience. And as an organizer, while I appreciate the poetry in his strategy, my siblings and I still inherited this anger, internalized pain, and above all, my family's desperate search for justice that doesn't seem to exist. It's been 2 years since Dad died. I think about him every day and miss our talks about what justice could be. I feel like I've aged a lifetime since then. And death, like taxes, are always on my mind, and cats too. In fact, the last time I saw my dad was when our cat Tiga was about to die. And the last time I talked to my dad and heard his voice was when he called me to invite me to go to an event in Alphawood Gallery about intergenerational trauma. He died a few days later from a spontaneous intercerebral hemorrhage. Bleeding of the brain. I believe that his stress and anger towards the government manifested in the erosion of his health, of his mind and his body. Until at the age of 61, after finally speaking his truth, he was set free. I can't help but think it must have been a lonely battle, and that by finally speaking to his community about it, that brought him peace. I also have to share that miraculously, while my dad moved on, Tiga survived, and the cat, and he's still alive today. My mom says that Dad's spirit went into the cat, and the cat lives on. Yeah. So it's remarkable how much death really puts life into perspective. It's revealed so much as we shift to fill the empty spaces. We are living in dark times. And for a while, I put all of my energy into what I perceived as the only ways to continue my family's fight. I became a community organizer, a social worker, tried to show up for everything, for everyone. In my family, as a middle child and only girl with 3 brothers, I've been the peacemaker, a lot of emotional labor, the one called to intervene because they'll listen to you. The past 2 years, I've retreated into myself to survive, I'd say. And in my dad's life and in his death, he taught me many things. And above all, I finally recognized that I deserve to take care of myself, to protect my energy. That, like my dad, what I need, and a lot of us probably need, is to take a rest, because sometimes our mind and our bodies need that, right? So I'm privileged to be able to take time to take a rest while I know others are not, and I felt a lot of guilt in this for a while, taking a break. But I realized with the help of friends and family that it's not selfish to take time to heal, right? I've been inspired by my family. I've shifted my focus to healthcare to fight for healthcare for all. Healthcare is a human right, to address mental health, intergenerational trauma, long-term care, and a job that allows me to have boundaries from emotional labor that I'm used to. I know my family is tired too, and I feel us trying to hold on to one another. I've never been more thankful for them, my brothers especially, for the fact that now, finally, as adults, after Dad's death, we can have critical conversations all about the world, our family, and what's starting to emerge after generations is that we're starting to talk about what it means for us to heal. We talk about mental health more openly, we're more intentional about having each other's backs. And each of us has survival mechanisms, ways we choose to protect ourselves, ways we choose to fight. And a lot of people here have been fighting since birth, right? For survival. For my dad, he found some revelation in tax resistance. I hear there's a movement now around tax resistance as well. And in his absence, I want to be able to continue his fight, starting by taking care of myself, through rest, through healing, through recognizing that I'm not in this alone. And I hope that as a community, we can try to heal together, so we can stop this cycle of oppression for our future generations. In these times, I don't think there's anything more radical than healing, so thank you all.
Oh my goodness. I want to say several years ago, I remembered Rebecca speaking at the Asian American Leadership Forum Conference. And I remembered that her presentation so well that I hadn't seen her until this year at the Incapi event. And she was like, "Hey Randy, what's going on?" And I said, I think you should tell a story. Let me grab Ada real quick. And then here she told her story. So I want to say thank you so much for sharing your story. Give it another round of applause for Rebecca. So we're concluding the finale of the show. And before I begin, how many show of hands, who is Vietnamese here? So, okay. So, so the question is, what does Nuk Mam mean? It's the only few words that I know in Vietnamese, to be honest. Fish sauce. Ding, ding, ding. So, Fish Sauce is an improv comedy group led by Nguyen and Michael Van Pham. And they are there to entertain you tonight. Be funny. Yeah, sorry. And while you're performing, I gotta figure out if I need to get a prenup signed for Ada. Just be on the safe side. Anyways, without further ado, please give it up for Fish Sauce.
We are trying. We will try. I'm Michael Van Pham. This is Nguyen. We are Fish Sauce. Fish Sauce, of course, as he said, means Nuk Mam. And we just threw this together because we're two dudes that love improv and comedy. And we've been sitting on the sidelines and taking in everyone's beautiful stories and songs. And so if it's funny, laugh. If it's serious, you can laugh too. You know what I mean? But yeah, so usually we're in comedy theaters, so this is a different energy, and it's beautiful, and we want to be respectful and have fun with that. So we're gonna do improv for you, and I don't know, I'm sure most
improv is made up on the spot.
It's made up on the spot! Yes. All right. You ready?
Let's go, man.
Let's go.
Okay, you're my best friend. You're my best friend,
Right.
and I gotta tell you something. I think we should break up.
Stop.
Tree, come on, man. Tree, I'm moving. Tree, I'm moving, and I just don't think.
You're not doing this to me.
I don't think it's gonna work out with us living so far apart, man. And I know the way things
I feel like
get.
there's a giant gap right now. It's widening as we speak.
I know, man. Do you know how long it takes to get to Wicker Park from Pilsen?
Oh, that's what it is?
I mean, it's like a 30 train transfers, man. Come on, dude. Let's just. I'll send you a Christmas card once a year, and then we'll call that our friendship. How about that? But meeting up once a month for brunch, I can't do that anymore.
I want to move to Chicago, he says. I want to live in a city, he says. I want to be roommates, he says. Then I want to move to Pilsen, he says. I want to live by myself, he says.
You're listening. Thank you.
Oh, God. Wow. Well, you know what? I'm moving to Lakeview.
Sir, please step right up. Can you pull out your passport and visa, please? Passport and visa?
The thing about that is...
Got it right here, baby. That's what you thought. Yeah, you thought you got rid of me. You thought you got rid of me, huh?
Oh, you've been to Puerto Rico. Very nice. Very nice.
Puerto Rico.
Really, this stuff is just a formality. Welcome to Canada. Have some healthcare.
Yo.
What's on?
I'm just like, you just don't look like, you just, how do I,
Okay,
how do I put this like politically correct? You just don't look like an ancient celestial dragon. Usually,
I would say that's unbelievable, but I get that a lot. Okay, I don't have the smoke and the wings and all that stuff, but believe me.
you're not even like serpent.
It's a new dragon for a new millennium, my friend. This is what we look like now.
Oh.
Welcome. You have any wishes? I do wishes. Oh my God, I love this museum. Look at this one, look at this. All this white space. What do you think it means?
I know exactly what it means. Okay, the artist was a colorist, and they put color everywhere.
Oh.
And then the white space really draws out everything.
Oh,
you know,
amazing. I love
the
it.
white space.
Cool.
Yeah, I think is the most.
Well, let me see if I
important
can find the artist statement somewhere.
It's right there. Read it out.
This is just the wall.
Oh my God, that's so beautiful.
Oh, they're cookies! Oh, cookies!
Oh, this museum has everything. I tell you, man, I love going to museums. Yeah, you, sir. Please. Will you go get him? Yeah, you down the line. You, yeah. You were looking for me.
He was. He asked me to get you, and you're here.
Yeah, you are done. You know that?
Dunzo.
Dunzo.
Finito.
Finito.
Out of here.
Buongiorno and bueno noches.
Goodbye.
You are dunzo.
Yeah. Xin chào.
Oh, xin chào. Oh, God, I love that. What was that one?
You just called me up here, so I don't. Why do I have to say goodbye? I got here. I'm here for a good time. I'm here for a good time.
Yeah. Xin chào means goodbye in Vietnamese. God damn, I love that. I love that. Think about it. Xin chào. All right. That means you're done. Okay. It means you're out.
I'm getting that vibe. Yeah,
you're out. Yeah, I'm totally getting that. Totally getting that vibe. I mean, I swear, I know that it's my last year to get an arranged marriage, but I just want to give it a shot. Okay? Can you just, either of you, just give me a shot.
I'm a celestial dragon. Granted.
Welcome to Lakeview!
Wow. You know, it took me 3 hours to get here, right? It took me 3 hours. I'm starving. Where's the food?
I'm feeling that gap in our friendship widening again.
Bro, you promised me brunch. It's 4 o'clock. Where is brunch?
We do things differently in Lakeview?
You know what? You changed, man. We graduated college, we moved to Chicago together, and then I went to Pilsen and I became cool. But you...
Wow.
I'm an artist now, man.
You know what you are? You're a gentrifier.
What?
Yeah, I said it.
No way.
How many Vietnamese are in Pilsen? Just you!
How many Vietnamese are in Lakeview?
2 of us! We're out of time.
Thank you so much for, can I have all the performers come to here? Thank you so much for being here. This is our show. The Chinese American Museum of Chicago for hosting us, and thank you everyone for being here. Invite us to your space. This is about community gathering. Let's get together. Let's tell our stories. This is important, particularly at this point in time in our history. Tell your stories. Talk to your people. Talk to your friends. Tell stories to each other. That's how we stay together. Good night. Thank you, everybody.
Give it up for Ada!